All right, guys, here we're going to talk about Twilight Zone, Season 1, Episode 19, as it appears on Netflix.
Yeah, this episode sucked. Thanks, everybody. Don't die in a fire. See you next week. Good night.
I remembered this episode.
Did you?
I did.
I'm continuing my trend of not remembering shit ever.
And did you catch it? Darren from Bewitched is the...
All right, I was looking at that guy's face like, who the fuck are you? I know you from somewhere.
Yeah, I believe he was the first Darren.
He was the captain, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fine premise of a thing. Like, this has been done in a lot of other things. I can't say if this was the first show to do it, where you can foretell other people's deaths by getting, like, either a glimmer, a vision, or a number, or whatever you might want to say you see on these people. For him, it's their faces glow a little bit white. And,
yeah,
that means
a
they're
weird
gonna die soon.
A weird lighting thing happens to them.
So it opens up where they're coming back from a mission. 4 people died. He's visibly upset. They ask him why is he upset. Because people die all the time, and he goes here, and he hands him a list, and those 4 names are. And he goes, so what is this? He goes, I wrote that yesterday, before they died. I knew they were gonna die during a weapon check. I could see it in their faces. I knew they weren't coming back from this one. And I was like, okay, cool. And then it proceeds. He's visiting somebody in the hospital. He sees it on their face. They die.
Yep.
He then sees it on his captain's head. His captain dies. He's being dismissed for being crazy. He sees it on his own face in the mirror before he's picked up.
In, like, the first mirror that was featured in the entire episode, I feel
Of
like.
course.
A very hilarious thing.
He sees it on his driver's face, and they talk about how the road they're heading down is full of mines, and it's dangerous, and of course he's dead. I'd like to try to avoid dying, so if I, heard any of those things, I'd be like, all right, we're either going to take a different road, or I'm not going. I'm going to keep looking at my face in the mirror until it turns blue.
Until it changes. Yeah, so,
No attempt to change the future. Because
no attempt to change the future
he knows
ever.
you can't somehow in this unexplained rules.
Right.
Or he's just not interested. Like, maybe he's just done with
Yeah.
life. He's like, I don't want to know if people are going to die. It's fucking
Okay.
hard.
So that's one of the only saving graces, that he makes that comment of, like, this is torturing me. I can't fucking do this. Who should know when to live? Whatever. This, I think, suffers, like most of these do, from the length of time. You don't have enough. If this was like a movie or anything else, you'd have a chance to know characters. You'd have a chance to play with this ability, like a little more. You summed it up perfectly, this chain of events. And it's like a standard. You introduce the concept. The audience doesn't know either. Then you prove it to the audience, but the other characters are still skeptical. Then you, like, drive it home because now the person who was the most skeptical, it's happened even to him. So everyone knows who's watching, and everyone should know, right? And then you, like, pay it off. And what's the payoff? Is he sees himself, which is fucking, the minute you see him walking past a mirror, I'm like, oh, I guess he's gonna fucking see himself, right? And this, I think, again, it being in, like, the 60s, they were just relying on that being enough of, like, a holy shit, like a mindfuck like thing.
Sure.
But now, in current year, in 2017, we demand more, or I demand more, right? I would have liked there to be some weird.
It fell a little flat.
I would have liked you to show, like, oh, they do try to change it. He says stay home, but he dies there somehow, right? Something like that. Something Final Destination type shit, where, like, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Play with it. Do something.
Trips, falls on the
Do
stairs,
something else.
something.
Yeah. Friendly fire accident, stray mortar, gets bitten by a mosquito, gets malaria. Like, do something else, right? And then, oh, if you'd have gone, you wouldn't have. Oh shit! And then it's him, like, fuck. Can I not change it? Did I just predict it wrong? Maybe I have to second guess myself and have him go anyway. Would he have died then? I don't know. And then have it be that terror of that thing. And then maybe he does die when he sees himself because he's so scared and, like, freaked out. And that's literally like what makes him die. And then it's this weird lesson of, like, the layers and the fucking things and all the things.
But none of that, no. It's too old for
It's
any
too
of that
old.
stuff to be happening.
This was too early, where this was
Yeah.
all it needed to be, at the time. And I try to put myself in the position of a 12-year-old in 1958, and I try to be like, how would I feel about this? And again, it's like a lot of these episodes are so steeped in the war, because it had just, World War II had just happened and shit. So, like, a lot of them are very wrapped up in that, and that doesn't resonate with me either, where I'm not like, oh, those boys out there, like, so this didn't really do it for me.
It's just not the kind of weird I like.
Okay.
Like, it was fine. There was nothing really wrong with the episode, but, like, I like the ones where it's like, oh, hey, what is that? Oh, creepy. And I can't even, like, think of those ones, but I know, like, this is a show that has episodes that are really, like Gremlin on the Wing, like that kind of stuff. Like, supernatural things I like more.
Sure.
And while this is technically supernatural.
Now, this was like a Stephen King, like Hearts of Atlantis. Like, is this a power? I guess this is kind of a power, but you're doomed from it or something. It's not even a fun power. I don't know how to
But he didn't. I don't think he was doomed because he got the powers.
No.
He died. Well, technically, had he not told anybody, he wouldn't have got sent away. And then
Oh, is that the mind fuck? Am I just too?
Don't tell me when you're crazy.
Is it too subtle for me? I don't even know. No, I don't know.
Everything we do does affect everything else, and that does, hold true in this story. But like, I always try to think of these things like powers or whatever you may call them. How could you, gain from them?
What if I had that
financially?
power?
What would I do? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess I would just enter a lot of death pools.
Sure. You'd have to be betting on fights to the death and be able to see them before they start fighting, right?
Or like the celebrity deaths, like who's gonna die first, this and that. But yeah, that works. If you're betting on boxing matches and you see one guy got a little yellow, he's probably gonna die.
They're not expected to die in every match, though. Only in 60 or 70% of boxing matches does the loser die. I have good authority.
If you're like looking at a football game and you see someone as yellow, even if they don't die in the game, that's bad for morale. You could bet against them in like the future games.
Oh yeah.
There are things you could do. Or you just hang outside of a doctor's office and take life insurance out on people
and be like, "Don't waste your time on him, doc." What? And then be like, "Oh," or that too. Or I thought they might like accuse him of killing that kid or something, like something interesting. Make me feel something a little more.
It'd be kind of cool if you got a job for a doctor who is suspicious, and you're like, "I'll look at all your patients first, and I'll assure you that none of them will die in surgery or cases you shouldn't take."
I like that when you flip it around, because and I was planning to mention Death Note anyway, so this is a perfect segue. Where like on the one hand it's like that you're gonna die, blah, but then on like the flip side you also know anyone that doesn't look like this isn't going to die, right? So you can actually know ahead of time, yes, you should go into battle because you're not going to die, right?
So I never actually went through all of Death Note. I have a question for this is off topic.
Oh shit, fuck.
If in Death Note I wrote my own name and said on March 35th, 2099, I die, can I not die until then?
There's a time limit. So the Death Note has a series of rules, but the answer to your question fundamentally is yes. And I thought that in the live action that we watched together, that's how L like defeats them at the end. Is he writes his own name, in the book, like the max number of days, like 2 weeks away, and then can't die that day when he pulls his like weird move to try to win. I thought that's what happens.
That movie at all.
Okay, good.
Interesting ideas.
Well, but the reason that I was going to bring it up is that part of Death Note is the Shinigami Eyes. Where is that a part of the live action movie?
No, but I've seen
Have you been watching anime?
My girlfriend watches
Holy
that show,
shit.
So I've gleaned a little bit of information, and I know that his like pop star friend or whatever.
She made the bargain.
Herself.
Yeah, you trade half of your remaining life, but you get the ability just by looking at someone to know their name, to write it in the book, and how long they have left. I think you can't really tell how long they have left though. But anyway, you can look at them and you know things related to death from looking at them, which is a very similar concept to this or whatever. Death Note, though, you really have to sit down and watch it all alone by yourself, quietly and paying attention to it. You're probably getting like the worst experience.
Yeah.
From doing this.
But so that's something that might be better than this episode if you're interested in this power.
If the idea of predicting death and seeing someone and knowing things from seeing them or whatever intrigues you, and you don't like the Philippines as much as Japan, I'd recommend the anime Death Note.
But that's our thoughts on this episode. If you enjoyed watching the Twilight Zone, let us know in the comments below. If not, don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
And skip this episode when you're rewatching Twilight Zone.